Good morning, everybody. Welcome to pre-market update. Trade war has officially started, and over the weekend, US President Trump announced 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China, and that rattled the stock market. You can see all the futures are down heavily. You can see Bitcoin dumping. Ethereum just crashed. You can see Ethereum just crashed in like just a couple of days, crashed almost 40%. You can see here. We'll see where we're going and we'll analyze market in further details. Please hit the like button, guys. It only takes 1 second to hit the thumbs up button. Let's see how things are going. You can see S&P 500 cycle analysis is working perfectly. You can see I was expecting a decline. This is declining phase. And this was SPX closed on Friday. You can see we had like a bearish engulfing candle which took over previous couple of days of price action. And now we're going towards the second gap fill, which is here on this line. If I show you on SPY, you can see futures are actually below this gap fill. Okay, so they're opening below. There's this massive gap here as well, so they might be probably trying to go and fill this gap. Okay, so that's what I think we're heading. This is MES. You can see gap down, futures gap down, probably going towards lower here. So SPX cycle is saying we are looking for at least maybe this gap fill as well. You can see this one is around 58.43, and then there are more gaps. And in terms of the chart, which I always use as a reference, this is a chart which I'm using as a reference, and I know at some point we'll touch this green line, okay, which is around 5500 right now. And from where we are right now to that green line is about 7% away, okay, and RSI still is not in the green zone, so at least we need to wait for RSI to be in the green zone to maybe get a short-term bounce and then come back down. And if you look at MES, that level is little higher, which is around 55.30 to 30 points higher here. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and then we'll keep an eye on this and we'll review it on a daily basis. And in terms of buy and sell zone, you can see all the indices are in the buy zone, so I could expect a short-term bounce. You can see S&P 500 is in the buy zone, Nasdaq in the buy zone. Everything should be in the buy zone. No, even Bitcoin and Ethereum, so no brainer there. And let's look at daily chart. By the way, guys, if you want to know more about this buy sell zone, I shared screenshot of these zones to my subscriber every hour, and you can be on the right side of the trade. You know when to buy, when to sell. There's a join button in the description of this video. Click on it and join. I'll really appreciate your support. All right, so that's on SPX. NDX, if you look into it, you can see same thing, looking for this big gap here, and then eventually this election gap. So if I look at triple Qs, which is representative of NDX, you can see we have a massive gap down. Could be coming to fill this gap. This was a gap up here, which is not filled. So that gap is around 505. That could hold. If that doesn't hold, then there's this another big gap here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So that's those both are possible scenarios. And in terms of SPX around 5500, which my other chart is saying, we could be looking at this big gap here. This gap around 5500 would be actually even lower, even lower. Okay, so just keep that in mind. MES 5500 is around below 200 EMA and SMA somewhere here. Okay, so we'll see how things go. Don't need to worry about it. This is just an estimate. We'll see if we really go there. And if I go to weekly chart, we're sitting on this 20 moving average. Okay, so just keep that in mind that that's usually a good area to bounce. A lot of time we go below and then bounce, touch it, bounce, touch it, bounce, touch it, bounce. MNQ also you can see a lot of times go below, touch this 50 moving 50 SMA EMA red lines as well, and that can bounce as well. So it's a nice area. You can see white line touch and time sometimes go below wicket. So it's a nice area. Like if the lower we go, this area should be bought by the bulls. So look to buy this area. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Like you can see, we got a wick here. So just remember, we're gonna get a very nice buying opportunity soon. All right, so let's go to Dow Jones DIA. Again, this is opening also gap down, okay, multiple gaps here to fill. You can take a screenshot, and IWM also opening on a gap down here. So this gap was definitely going to be filled, and you can see they're trying to fill that. Probably they're going to push it down lower to fill that gap. So those are on US indices, Bitcoin. All right. So Bitcoin came in this yellow box again, and then Vic, you can see every time it comes back on this yellow box, bounces, 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 and now again in this yellow box. Okay, and now again we're getting a bounce. So will this bounce finally again go and make a new high? We don't know. We'll see. Just on futures, you can see we had a gap down. So you can see there is a gap around 1 or 2. So they could try to fill that gap and then come lower, but just remember there's also a gap around 77K here. So keep an eye on that gap. Ethereum, there is a gap right all the way down there on 2236. So they came all the way down, just had a quick wick. I think they eventually gonna come and fill this gap around 2236, and then there are more gaps down. So we'll see how far this pullback is gonna be. So this support around 90K, 89 to 90K is better hold. If not on Bitcoin, we're going to 77K straight down. Okay, so we'll see. Time will tell us. Let's go to Hang Seng Index. China is also holding. Finally, they open after holidays. 3rd February had a quick wick. Now holding nicely. Support above all moving averages. So holding very nicely here. Bond market is looking bullish. Tried to break out, but then gave everything back in front of this major resistance 50 moving average. And in terms of oil, oil is doing very good. Okay, so oil is a nice wick. You can see had a nice bounce from this 50 moving average. I think it could be going to this, filling this gap around 77.83, probably going in and hitting there. It's nice close above. If it happens above these blue lines, that's very strong close for the oil. CNQ, which is the oil miner, um, Canadian oil miner, is a bit weaker, opening on negative 1.22% because of this duty, 10% duty. But this is going to be a buying opportunity. Like if you get this, there are multiple gaps here, so you just got to be patient. Pretty very solid company with massive dividends, 5% yield. So uh, this is the time you want to be buying. You want to buy at lows of the year. You don't want to be buying at highs like tech stocks. So we'll see how things go. XLE also had a major reaction to CVX Chevron. CVX had an earnings here. You can see this is the second largest component of XLE. Nice breakdown here. But again, multiple gaps here. They might want to fill that. So that's what's happening. Also getting an 8 count SPY signal here on XLE. So we could be heading for a nice pump here. So keep that in mind. And then Suncor also had a sell signal. This gap had to be filled. So they're now holding this gap right now. So let's keep moving. Natural gas, nice pump, but again, this pump can fill because it opened on a gap up. So there's a gap up here, gap down here, right in the middle. So they could bring it back to fill this gap and then go higher again, or they could keep going higher to fill this gap. So we'll see how things go. Gold, uh, there's a gap here around 2773, so just keep that in mind. They will fill it at some point. It's holding above all moving averages, looking very strong. But if it comes down to fill this gap, that's an area you want to be buying. Silver also nice wick above all moving average. Silver is weaker than gold for some reason, but silver can catch up. So just keep that in mind. Silver could be a good trade for you. Copper also holding above nice wick below moving average and then bought it. So looking nice. Sugar trying to make a right shoulder. Okay, you can see left shoulder. This is neck, right shoulder, and then they're gonna bounce. So eventually it's gonna be again in these top range. So sugar is a nice buy the wick, by the dip. Wheat wait to close above these blue moving averages. Corn is also by the dip. Uh, First close multiple gap down. So let's see if it can again pick up here. Dollar very bullish. Again, open on a gap up. I think if I go to 1 hour chart, maybe if no, still this gap is not filled. So we'll see. Looks like it opened on a gap up. So um, looking very bullish. Came to this zone, buy zone, and now bouncing from here. Okay. In terms of stocks, Apple, after good earnings, had everything given back, now opening on a gap down. Multiple gaps. It came to this 200 moving average and then bounce. It could come back again and fill some of these gaps. Keep that in mind. Other than that, I think other one is interesting is NVDA opening below 200 moving average. It could break down. If it breaks down here, then the next step Next stop could be in 80s. You can see 86, nice support here. So I think it could go there. So just keep that in mind. And other than that, Tesla giving away all the gains from last after earnings. So let's see if it's going to hold here or break down. I think most support is around 340s. AMD looking very weak. I don't know if you know, I told everybody that 112 could be in a good area to buy AMD. So that's where it's heading before the earnings, which is tomorrow. So we'll see how things shape up. Amazon's earning is, I think, very soon as well, which is also on Thursday. So we'll see at new highs. And Microsoft is also interesting if you want to be buying Microsoft below. You can see below 200 EMA SMA, but people could buy this dip. It's a very solid company for the long term. My requester, so one of the subscriber asked me for CLS, Celestica. Celestica, very you can see had a nice dump here after I think this DeepSeek AI thing, and then recovered V-shaped recovery after earnings. Now there are multiple gaps here. Like you can see this big earnings gap, big gap down, again gap up. So I think at short term, I'm looking for this gap to fill at some point. The multiple gaps, huge gaps here. One thing to note, it made a new high on divergence. So you can see here RSI and PPR, nice divergence here. And so you just got to be careful whenever this dip happens. It looks like it will happen, but you can see weekly chart also has some divergence. You can see nice divergence even on weekly and even on daily. So uh, okay, so PPO does not have divergence, RSI has divergence, and very, very overbought. You can see light green background everywhere. You want to be buying a stock which is when it's red, okay? I like here, okay? You want to be selling a stock when it's green. So at short term, I think this is a good area to take profits, looking for some pullback with multiple gaps, huge gaps, not even small gaps, huge gap like this. So you can see we always time and time come back to this white line, which is 20 moving average. So look for that gap whenever that dip comes to around 101, look to buy it there. So at this time, I'll be taking profits and it's buy the dip. So wait for it to fill some of these gaps and then buy again. Don't be like super bullish. This is the area you want to be really taking profit. I don't really buy at these levels. I buy for at when we have a nice red or at least RSI is in the middle. So keep that in mind. Okay, what else is there interesting? Shopify is at new highs. I think MicroStrategy down 7%. I am looking for this 270 gap to fill. So that gap from where we are pre-market is about also 13-14% away. So we'll see if we're going to get that or not, but it's also opening in a gap down. They could pump it again, depends on Bitcoin. And if that holds, that's good. If not, then we're going to this 200 moving average around 270s, sorry, around 220s. So I think that's about it for today. Let's look at VIX and then we'll wrap it up. VIX opened on a massive gap up, all right, opening on a gap up, and now there's going to be another gap here. It could be going reaching towards this 27.64. So remember, if sell-off becomes heavier and heavier, it could go higher. Then it could stop here and then come back to fill bottom gap. So keep that in mind. There is a gap here around 27. So if VIX aims for that gap, then it's going to be not good. You can see this gap down here. That's could be where it could be heading. And that would take a massive 40% pump. And that could happen if China, Mexico, they all retaliate on the tariff. And there's going to be a trade war, big trade war coming. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't done so. I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.